I'm going to go to Genesis 1, so you can find that very simply in the first book of the Bible, Genesis 1, and verses 14 through 19. But before we get to that, of course, it's a new month, new question. We've kind of rewritten the question a little bit to lose some of the archaicness of the older language, but it goes like this. Where is the moral law comprehended in summary form? And the answer is the moral law is comprehended in summary form in the Ten Commandments. You say, what does that mean? It means the Ten Commandments are still valid as the, shall we say, the model of how do we love our God and how do we love our neighbor as ourselves. They're still valid. We can't use them to get to heaven. They're not a stairway to get to heaven. Only Christ has fulfilled them perfectly, but we still use them as God's people, as a model for love. God. Such a short little word, isn't it? 3 little letters. G-O-D. And it's such a deep, 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 deep thought. Unfortunately, sometimes we, in the church, not this church or particular churches, but the church at large, we try to make God more mannish so we can relate to Him. You know, we don't like this God who's up in the transcendent place, who does not change. We want it to be more like us, more flexible. You know, He augments Himself, morphs Himself into different things so we can relate to Him. And sometimes people use the story of creation to show that. They say, you know, one day God wasn't a creator, and then one day He created, and therefore He was different that day than He was the day before. And remember the day issue. We use this kind of what we call this time-measured kind of terminology to explain things, but God doesn't dwell in time. God does not have a tomorrow. God doesn't have a yesterday. God is forever God. He transcends time. He is outside of time, and He condescends to step into our world and step into our days and our weeks and our months. God doesn't gain something by creating. He doesn't become something He wasn't before. He doesn't gain more being or more actuality by creating. Imagine this, that God gets more being than He had before because He created. That would mean He gets more pleasure, more joy. And so, if that was true of God, that He wasn't what He was before He created, now He's something different after He created, He's something better. That's not true, by the way, but if it was, wouldn't it mean that God would be like, you know, you folks down there in Massachusetts, I know some of you going through a real hard time, but I'm sorry. This creation thing's really working for me. I'm just going to keep on creating because it's bringing more pleasure. More pleasure than I had before because now I have more being. And so the rest of you folks, well, I'm sorry you're hurting down there, but I can't really be focused on you right now because I got too many other things to do. I'm changing. I'm becoming something different. Is that the God you want? Not the God I believe, not the God the Bible teaches either. No, God Himself is pure being. He's an ocean of blessedness, an infinite horizon of perfection. He does not add to His being, nor can it be taken away from. He's God. And so since He is most free, His constant posture, His constant, infinite attention in Christ Jesus can be upon you. Every little hurt, every little pain, every little stress, every little anxiety, He is totally, fully aware of. He is most free to care for you in Christ.